Hello.
Oh, hello,
Hello.
Benjamin.
How you doing?
Hello, everybody. Hoops. How are you this Saturday morning, this lovely Saturday?
I'm doing well, We're revving on this book here,
Indeed.
Land of Eem RPG, and we're going to go through, tell you how to play it, show you what it's like.
For those of you that don't know, the Land of Eem is the tabletop role-playing game that takes place in the world of Rickety Stitch and the Gelatinous Goo, the graphic novel series. And we are really excited that we are releasing the beta rules with a bunch of goodies that we'll talk about next Thursday to celebrate Gen Con 2020 online.
Yes, we're going to do some playtests during Gen Con, which will be cool with random people. That'll be a first for me for GMing for random people. I've only played with my friends.
Yeah.
So that'll be an experience.
I'm excited.
I'm an introverted person.
Hello, George. Welcome.
So why don't we just start out with the basics, the dice mechanics. This is a D12 system that we made because we felt like D12s were so underused. They needed some love, and they roll really well. So
they do.
They needed their own system. And if you've ever played something like Dungeon World or Star Wars Edge of the Empire, you might be familiar with partial successes and partial failures. So that's what we got going on here. You see this chart, and this is basically what like every check results are for.
Yeah, and Ben, maybe you can zoom in on that just a little bit if that's possible.
Oh, sure. Oh, I'll zoom out.
Oh, whoa! Simmer down there, guy. Don't be so angry.
We're losing viewers.
It's all right. It's important they see who we actually are.
All right, so you roll a 1 or a 2. So, sorry, first, basically everything uses a skill. You roll a d12 plus your skill, plus or minus your skill. And classes have abilities, class abilities, that also most of the time use your skill. But they allow you to kind of break the rules or do something awesome. So if you roll a 1 or a 2, it's a complete failure. It's like a critical miss. Not only do you fail, but something bad happens as well. There's like a bad consequence. So we have some examples here. So say if you're trying to pick a locked door and you roll a complete failure, you fail to pick the locked door and some guards catch you in the act. Or if you're tricking some guards, you fail to trick them and now they're threatening to take you into custody. So it's the whole point of this is to like move the story forward instead of just like you fail, okay, I try again or something. There's really no try again in the system. It's like you're getting to another place in the story.
And in the playtesting, it turned out to be super fun because whether things were a failure with a plus or a success with a twist, it really creates a lot of, I want to say it makes it more dynamic, the actual events, so that you have one problem and then the problem gets compounded and then the problem gets compounded. And then so the players are dealing with all kinds of conflicts and issues, and it's super fun. George says, do or do not. There is no try again.
So failure with a plus is the action fails, but there's some benefit or silver lining. So it's not all bad. Going back to picking a locked door, you fail to pick the locked door, but notice another more dangerous way inside. Or you fail to trick the guards, but you manage to secretly swipe a key or something of that like that. And success with a twist. You succeed, but something complicates the situation. So you successfully pick the locked door, but you make a ton of noise in the process. Or you trick the guards, but now they're watching your every move. Or if you're escaping guards, you successfully escape them, but you accidentally leave behind an important item. And then we move on to 9 through 11. And the action just succeeds. You do what you set out to do. And complete success is you do what you set out to do, but there's something awesome that also happens in addition to that. So yeah, that's the basic dice mechanics, and you can have
essentially how you do everything in the game, actually.
Yeah. And there's some like abilities or circumstances where the actual results are written out for you. So you don't have to interpret it. But that's mainly for abilities.
We can take a look at some abilities and when we are looking at the character sheets in just a bit.
Yeah. And so there's also advantage and disadvantage. So you can roll 2 d12s or roll 2 d12s for either take the highest or the lowest. And proficiencies and deficiencies are like permanent advantages and disadvantages they might have.
Oh, actually, Ben, I'm going to stop you there. George makes a really interesting point in the comments. He says, I think it's important to mention that the GM doesn't always have to come up with the twists and pluses. They can always call upon the players to tell them what they think happened, which is also pretty fun.
Yeah. So that takes some pressure off the GM to always be, thinking on their feet. And that's written in there.
Right. It's written there. And Ben and I are always talking about collaborative storytelling, collaborative play. And this is actually a mechanic that can help promote that in a fun way.
So we also wrote up some ideals for players and GMs, like how to be a good GM or player in this game. So Land of Eem, as a player, you have to be creative. And part of that is like not letting the dice speak for you. You kind of have to say what you're saying instead of I want to intimidate them and just roll and intimidate. You have to actually say how you're intimidating them.
I crack my knuckles and narrow my eyes at the guard or whatever,
Yeah. And you also have to build on your relationships. That's a big thing in the game. That's a big way to get experience for your entire party is playing to your relationships that you establish, and we'll talk about that later. And characters also have ideals and flaws that if they play to them, they get XP for themselves. So for instance, we'll flip over here. This is a character that we're going to showcase, the Loyal Chum.
Riley Springle, a pre-generated character that comes with the beta so that you can get started right away.
Yeah, we're going to have this quick start guide with 6 pre-generated characters and a whole adventure. So what I was talking about with ideals and flaws, like her ideal is volunteer to go head first into danger. So if she does that during an adventure, she'll get an XP. And her flaw is fumble or trip at a bad time.
Which is really funny. That's really fun because it's like, don't worry, guys, I'm going into the cave. And it's like, whoop, 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 whoop.
Yeah. So it's kind of, putting yourself in a bad spot, making things inconvenient for yourself to get an XP, which is always fun.
In a way, it's like a way to have a mechanic and a reminder and kind of reward players to be imperfect. And I think that's at least for Ben and I, that's some of the funnest stuff in any kind of role-playing game is literally leaping into one of your weaknesses and to make the adventure dynamic.
Yeah, this is definitely not a min-maxer game.
Sure, that's for sure.
So every character has 4 attributes. It's Vim, Vigor, Knack, and Know-How. Vim is like your charisma and inner spirit. Vigor is your strength and physical presence. Knack is your cunning and dexterity. And Know-How is your knowledge and wisdom. And so these directly influence the skills and your stats. So everyone has courage, attack, defense, and quest points. Quest points are like a meta currency to use abilities again, as well as increase a die roll by 1. So you can like move say for instance, you get an 8. That would be a success with a twist. You can move it up to just a flat success by spending a quest point. And there are 16 skills. I don't know if it's interesting to go through all the skills, but
they're basically a well-rounded way to use the attributes, I think. Each one, you can just see right here in these examples, like Vim, you've got Charm, Inspire, Metal. These are all associated with that charismatic intangible that many people have.
And we've written up examples for each skill on how you would interpret a dice roll. So, for instance, Charm. You attempt to win over a surly goblin guard who won't let you into your town after sunset. A complete failure would be your voice cracks and the goblin never wants to see your ugly mug again.
Harsh.
I think we're missing, you attempt to win over a surly goblin guard with your song.
Look at that. Canon.
Failure with a plus is the goblin likes the song, but the rules are the rules. No entry. Success with a twist. The goblin will let you in, but tells everyone that you're a terrible musician. Success. The goblin likes your song and lets you in just this once. Complete success. The goblin loves your song and don't sweat it. You'll get in whenever you need to.
Yes, and we've got pretty clear examples for each of these so that it's easy to get the gist of interpreting them.
Yeah.
Knack skills. Look at that beta art.
Yeah, all this art is stuff that I've made in the past.
Yeah, all the art is like concept designs from projects and like sketches.
As well as old characters.
Mm-hmm.
There is some new art for the new classes, such as the one you saw earlier, Riley Springle, the loyal chum.
Creatures too.
That's true, yeah. So let's talk about abilities. This is how your character is powerful and unique, by choosing abilities from your class. And abilities use these skills. So, for instance, the gnome's ability called Chronicler, which allows them to make up a piece of history in the Land of Eem for their benefit or whatever. That requires the use of the lore skill. So you'd have to roll lore to make your assertion true. And then most abilities are once per session or once per combat, meaning that you can only do it once per session or once per combat, but you could use quest points to use them again.
Always helpful.
So let's go over the classes real quick. This is a nice little rundown here. We've got the Bard, who is charismatic, creative, and a healer. They have tons of creative abilities where they're singing, and at first level you get a pretty powerful ability where you can kind of narrate the outcome of an action just by saying it. You like will it into existence. So the example we have in the book is if you're on one side of the chasm, your friend's on the other, and it's like a pretty difficult jump. The bard can let's look at the text here. So you basically say a rhyming couplet, and what we have is, and then Morty bounded like a deer. In a moment he was there, and now he was over here. It makes it come true. It's the power of the bard. So every class has perks that they start out with and choose from. So as a bard, you choose your instrument, like what's your specialty. You got string, percussion, brass, and you choose your talent, which is being a musician, storyteller, performer. And every class has something like that. And there are 10 levels with 2 abilities per level. You start out with both level 1 abilities.
This is I like this aspect of leveling up your character.
Yeah, when you get to level 2, you choose which level 1 ability you want to keep, and then you get both level 2 abilities. So you get to like play with both of them and figure out which one you like. So by the time you get to level 3, you can choose which level 2 ability you want to keep, and it just keeps going like that. And in fact, you can actually pick up any ability that you passed on. So say you were going to level 3, and you're like, you know what? I want both level 1 abilities. I'm going to skip level 2, so take that.
Evan says, I can't wait to tell my wife I'm practicing my bard skills by telling her a bunch of terribly rhyming puns. Oh, that's fantastic. I need to do that.
You'll get a lot of practice playing this game.
I love it. So this is a really cool aspect. The abilities and the perks and all the other stuff that is all super fun. But one of the best things is like guiding the backstory and creating the ideals and flaws that help generate the character's character and how they create relationships with the other party members. And this was one of my favorite pieces.
Yeah, so every class has their own unique stories. And you have options here that we gave you to choose from. So it's kind of, you can get off the ground quickly, or you could make up your own backstory. So you choose one of these. You create an ally from your past, a rival from your past. You choose your ideals and flaws, like we talked about, and these are, things that you tend to do, and you get rewarded for doing them. They're like your beliefs or tendencies. So the bard, for instance, if the bard makes a new fan in a session, they get an XP. Or if they fall in love with an NPC, they get an XP. It's one of their flaws. And then we have personal quests, which are sort of
it's like your MO. It's like your direction.
Yeah, like maybe like a quest stemming from your backstory, like what your purpose is, aside from the main goal of your group. And so when you pursue that in any way, you get XP for the whole party. And as James was talking about the relationships, every class has 8 different things. And so this will require the group getting together like during session 0, as it were, like before you actually start playing and you're making characters. But, say I was a bard and James is, a rascal or something. I'd probably choose James and I have a lot in common. We both enjoy stirring up trouble. And so that would become our relationship, and he would write a version of that too. He would just kind of replace names with that one.
Yeah, and let me talk about kind of the reason why we wanted to do this, because I think like there's a couple of reasons. Like one, the early idea that, you know, when you play a D&D campaign or many other RPGs, it's like you start in a tavern but nobody knows each other and you have to like become friends. Well, we thought it'd be cool what if this group, like everybody's connected already? Like they've been rough and tumble together in the Land of Eem for a long time. They've got a little bit of history so that you can start to play off each other in fun ways or have different dynamics between each other. And between that and flaws and ideals and the way that twists and pluses work for checks, we thought that will just create I mean, quagmire is not the word, but like, and maybe if it's a lot of twists, but a lot of twists, a lot of flaws, but it just creates like a richness, like a positive, negative flow throughout the entire story that leaves everybody talking about the adventure for an hour after it happens, you know, or in our case, like years.
Yeah. You've got, what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. Like you get into when you're playing other games and you're just making new characters, you kind of get to a point I found where it's like, why are we doing this again? Like why do we have reasons to be together at this point?
Right.
And so if you already established those...
Min-maxing murder hobos. We found Tunnel. Tunnel has gold. Goblins in way. Kill goblins.
Like many campaigns have been derailed by that. Like not having a clear understanding of why you're together.
But if, you know, we both like to stir up some trouble and get into adventures, and then that's reminds us why we're there pretty fast.
Yeah, and a lot of these kind of establish that there might be a little bit of conflict between players. And so that's a little interesting to get into, and it makes it easier to develop an interesting relationship. And so when you do that in the game and you like have a cool role-playing moment between two characters and it kind of builds on your relationship, that gets XP for the entire party, which is cool. And we got a Dungeoneer right here.
A classic. A Land of Eem classic.
So the Dungeoneer he originally started out as like a very corporate
as did much of Rickety Stitch. Like the corporate humor in Rickety Stitch was really big at the beginning when we first came up with the characters for the series. And it still exists because we still think it's funny that, you know, he works for a company called Subterranean Pits and Layers LLC, that the goblins are sort of in this high fantasy world with grand dramas, but they're really focused on like, well, we got to expand our business and make profits and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they're like a big faction in our sandbox still.
Yeah, they used to be Forest Sandbox, which actually comes with the beta, and we'll share some stuff on that too. But the Dungeoneer used to be this corporate person, but became sort of Indiana Jonesy.
Yeah, kind of scaling back on, you know, the business stuff, although there's still a bit of that in there. But it's more like you're a freelancer instead of working for a corporation. You're a freelance Dungeoneer, searching for treasure, that sort of thing. You have underlings. So you start with an underling who you can make like do stuff, like dangerous things, like go over there and get the gem. And you can choose what type of underling you want, like what their specialty is.
Sorry, you made me laugh. Go over there, get the gem. I'm sure that rope bridge will hold your weight. Don't worry about it. You can do it. I believe in you.
Exactly.
You get an intern.
I'm hearing feedback. Is that from me or you?
I don't hear feedback. I wonder. My audio is good.
I don't even know if the
I'm just waiting for
chat,
your voice.
Can you hear
drop.
that?
So
I'll let you explain that.
that's sorry. I'll explain that. But so Ben and I, we work pretty much every day together, like in a Google Hangout or Zoom or whatever. And lately, Ben's like audio tone, or is it not tone? What's the word I'm looking for? It's like his voice suddenly becomes artificially
Like
really, really
pitch.
deep. Yeah, pitch. And so it would be like, oh yeah, we're talking, we're working at 7, and suddenly Ben will be like, oh yeah, dude. Like
There's something wrong with my headphones or something. Like,
I think that's a great idea.
if it slightly disconnects from the USB or something, I think that's what happens.
And the first time it was like sort of imperceptible, but then I
talk in that voice half the time anyway.
close, but it dropped so much then. Yeah, he does that all the time anyway, so I didn't notice. But then finally I couldn't stop laughing because it was like everything he tried to say was just like,
oh man, Land of Eem, I'm really excited about making it come true and having it.
It's like Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs.
So
I'm wondering if we should move on from classes. I feel like we could do this all day.
George says times like that you just tell him to talk like the police chief from Monk, who's the same actor that played Buffalo Bill in the Silence of the Lambs.
Monk.
Let's just go quickly through the rest of the classes. You got your gnome. The gnome can choose their hat and their bane, which is like El Nerman Fuddle, if you're familiar with the book. He's the Lich Bane, Nerman Fuddle. So you choose which enemy you're good at fighting.
And their names always start with the first letter of the thing. So El Nerman Fuddle, and it's revealed that his name is Lich Bane Nerman Fuddle. And so, you can be WP Whirl or whatever, and it's like Witchbane.
And the thing about gnomes is that it's assumed they've been living for hundreds of years. So they're like really powerful. They have magic. They're the only class in the game with magic. The Land of Eem is pretty like low magic as far as the out of the box setting comes, but the way you can get magic powers is by getting magical items, and there are a lot that you can get. And then we have the Knight Errant.
The noble Knight Errant.
The fighter. They ride a steed. They're also a leader. They're inspiring. Taking a cue from Eppley from Rickety Stitch. They can ride a horse, a boggrel tortoise, or a zozo bird. Each one gives you, its own benefits. And they have the most combat abilities.
And for those of you that have watched a stream about Land of Eem or Rickety Stitch, the Rickety Stitch, I should say, the Land of Eem is about creative solutions. So even though fighting does exist, it's not always the most common way to solve a problem. And so the Knight Errant, being a Knight Errant, does have a lot of martial prowess and the ability to fight. Because it makes sense to the character, not because they need to hack and slash their way through the world.
Yeah, so for instance, we were playing last night and going through the dungeon. That's actually the first dungeon we're playtesting it, but with like level 7 characters because that's where we're at in the campaign. So I beefed up the courage, which are hit points, and to go to what James is saying, like they encountered a giant snake, and it was kind of like, can we fight this situation? Ultimately, they like kind of gave it some money as if they were like coming to pay.
Let me write you a check.
Pay their respects because he was sitting on like a big treasure hoard, and this was like parlaying with him, and he accepted their donation and like told them to leave forever. So they backed away out of that and went another way. But they ended up, fighting the other people in the dungeon. And then at the end, they were like, should we like go kill that snake? But they had exhausted like all of their resources. So they're like, no, it's not, not a good idea.
Not a good idea. And that's how they wiped.
Yeah, because one thing is your courage hit points are really low in this game. Like you start out with like the loyal chum 13 plus Vim, so maybe it's going to be like 14, 15, or 12 or 11, and it stays that way. So unless you get like magical items, so I mean it's not a game where you get like bloated bags of hit points and you become invincible. We didn't talk about the loyal chum, but let's just go to the character sheet. The
There
loyal
she is.
chum.
Riley Springle.
Starts out with 2 abilities. One is Old Chums. You can make up an old friend that you've run into who can help you or give advice like anywhere you are in the world. In one of the play tests, I think someone used that when they were like in a Sarpathi dungeon to like meet an old friend who was also captured.
It's clever.
And then lend a hand. If your ally fails a roll, you can attempt to make the check instead and replace the ally's result. So the loyal chum has a lot of abilities like that where they can like make you roll again or give you a boost. They're always helping out their fellow adventurer. The last class is the Rascal, which is a rogue.
There she is.
So they have a lot of hiding and sneaking and stealing stuff. You get to choose like what type of rascal you are, footpad, charlatan, or ruffian. The ruffian, for instance, can roll a might check and knock out an unsuspecting goon or henchman, which are enemy types. So you can like make that moment in a movie where you sneak up behind someone and just knock them out without having to fight them. Yeah. So let's like move on to maybe traveling or something.
Yeah, that sounds like a blast. Although this is pretty interesting, showing all the species and the map and all that. You can get a good look at all the. These are all the species that you can actually be in the Land of Eem, and each one of them is unique. And
Boggart, Boggle, Broggle, gelatinous goo, gnome, goblin, human, imp, skeleton, shrimp, and wug.
The wug, famously a last-minute addition.
But a few people have been wugs.
It's great.
I would say most people have been boggarts, bogrels, wug, goblin, shrimp.
I think I'm as a gnome and an imp.
If we didn't mention this, I know we've mentioned in the past, but being a gnome, you can't be a gnome bard. You can only be a gnome. Like you're just a gnome.
Yeah, it's kind of a harkening back to the old D&D where it was like there's a fighter and a priest and an elf and a dwarf.
Yeah, it's their own class because
they're so unique.
They're wizards, basically.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you pick your species and your homeland. Your homeland starts you off with some proficiencies, which are like permanent advantages. So if you're fishing or gator wrangling, you would always roll with advantage if you're from Quackmash.
Gator wrangling. Oh, that's
And
my
it also
favorite.
starts you out with a list of equipment. So on to the adventuring section, which is mostly about travel. Travel is a big part in the game because it's a sandbox and you're going from hex to hex. So here's the map. And we're going to provide a downloadable map as well, so you can put it easily into programs like Roll20. But this is the map, and so I'll hop over to Roll20 actually. So James, let's say you're the loyal chum, and here's your token, which is Wally from Wally's Waffles and Wargs.
Good old Wally. Best waffles and wargs this side of the Nakadonkey. The dirt.
And let's say you're in Crickstop, or let's say you start at Wally's, of course. Wally's Waffles and Wargs.
Okay, I'm at Wally's.
And you're heading over to Fort Bulwark. What you're going to need to do is roll a realms check. And during the course of a day, you can move 4 hexes if it's in, easy terrain like the used to be forested is. If you're in mountains or swamps, you can only move 1 hex per leg, and there are 2 legs in a day.
Okay, so what do I roll for a travel, Ben?
You will roll the realm skill.
And I'm +1. Am I in the right Roll20 as you? +2.
Yeah.
So I rolled a 9.
So that means you would proceed on that part of the journey without any events.
All right, but let's assume I failed. for the sake of showing what happens. Let's assume I failed that test. It was a
Right.
valiant effort, but I stubbed my toe and lost some time.
Say you rolled a 5 because I'm the next one in line. I'm the person in the party. I've +0 in realms. You have to switch off between everybody in the party each time. So we move, 2 more spaces, and I rolled a 5. That means that there's a random encounter, a dangerous encounter. So roll a D100, James.
All right, rolling a D100. Roll20 makes it super easy. 67. And for all of you GMs out there, all of these random encounters, at least for the used to be forest, are in the beta. So you've got access to lots and lots and lots of tools for running games.
67 is a trio of Bogrel bulwarks is searching for a runaway criminal, the cutthroat Crumpler, last seen near these parts and wanted for murder.
Oh my goodness gracious. I wonder if I should help find this culprit.
Yeah, they say it's your duty as a citizen of the used to be forest. Turns out Wally is actually right near Fort Bulwark. So it all makes perfect sense.
It does. It does. It wouldn't need to, but here.
So as a GM, I would probably take that as like, what if the party's like, what, who cares? We got other stuff to do. I would probably make them run into the cutthroat Crumpler.
That's the twist. They could have done the right thing, and we'll call it the right thing, but then they bump into the Crumpler. And so
maybe it's like a situation like the beginning of Seven Samurai, where there's like insane person with a hostage.
And the eldest of the samurai, the first of the 7, he goes and saves him.
It's a great scene.
It is. It's my favorite movie ever. 7 Samurai. If you haven't seen it, it's great.
So that's what I would do. You can do anything you want because it's just kind of a prompt. Some of them throw you into a situation more than that, though.
Yeah, they demand a decision from you, or they demand action, or else, or because it's a dangerous encounter, it could be a wild animal that's not having it.
For instance,
let's share some of these so folks can see the level of.
A shrimp named Blimey Pete is stuck in what can only be a giant mousetrap. Pete is frantically trying to escape before the killer rats come back. Killer rats are giant rats.
So that's an immediate action one. It's like, well, we got to get Blimey Pete out of there, or he's rat food.
And then there are perilous encounters down here, where a starving manticore leaps from the brush and attacks, or a goblin engineer has his tie caught in a giant stump grinder.
I don't remember all of these, but you got to get him out of there, or else he's gonna be a pizza.
Or Mimsy Momsy's traveling sideshow is headed to Fleabag County, but she's distraught because her most prized attraction escaped the iron carriage with barred windows. She'll pay a handsome sum if you bring Marty back. Just be careful because tonight there's a full moon and Marty's a werewolf.
Yeah. So these can really throw a wrench in the works. A lot of these can turn into quests all their own, really.
Yeah.
And I've always thought that was cool because whether you're running a storied campaign with chapters that you've planned out, or a module, or just playing around in the sandbox because there wasn't enough time to prepare or anything, a lot of these traveling encounters can really, turn a whole night into a werewolf hunt.
And werewolves are supremely dangerous in this game.
Yeah.
I think in the first campaign we ran, the group encountered a werewolf and just ran.
Have to run away.
And it chased them across 4 hexes. And they ended up parlaying with it and retrieving this magical item, like a cloak of shapeshifting from a dungeon. This was all basically improved by players using abilities. I think the dungeoneer was like, we'll hide in this nearby dungeon that I know. Turned out the dungeon had an item that the werewolf wanted. And so they actually got this cloak of shapeshifting and basically made a werewolf like a supervillain by being able to
see that's
shift
what
into a
makes
normal person.
Sandboxes fun. Is the what happens when you take all these elements of collaborative story play and it just turns into it. Like George says here, George says, I love sometimes when you're on the road to an adventure and suddenly the next 2 hours is resolving a random encounter and it ends up being super fun. Also, Tim, thank you. He says that we've got a neat leveling system. And Evan says, Turtle Knight, whoop whoop.
Yeah, that seems to be the favorite, the Bogrel tortoise. And then, if you rolled really well on a traveling check, you make a discovery. And discoveries generally lead to something cool, like an item or a secret place or an NPC that's friendly. For instance, you find a bandit in a dangling cage. The bandit was abandoned by his gang, but if you let him down, he'll lead you to his hidden share of the loot nearby.
Score.
You meet a wandering quartled monk named Squode, who is searching for the meaning of life. He decides to accompany on your journeys if allowed.
Yeah, I love the discoveries because they're not all one-dimensional. It's, you end up with an NPC for the rest of the session is pretty interesting.
Yes.
It's fun too, especially for GMs to just like have another character that is introduced instantly, sort of, and you can do whatever you'd like with them.
That's honestly my favorite part about GMing. Like playing NPCs, I think that's probably my strength as a GM, as opposed to like setting a scene or something.
So that image there, Ben, of the skeleton wearing the Epilian regalia on the Muppet Spider, that's going to make people want to be able to ride an inkpot spider.
I know. It'll be in the Knight Errant supplement.
Pack. Yeah, it'll be in the expansion pack. Additional mounts.
Someday.
In 2025.
I mean, we could easily come up with a bunch of mounts, I think.
Yeah. I already had some thoughts just based on some of the projects we were working on that may or may not include flying mounts. I don't know. Just an idea. Going crazy.
You trying to break the game over here? What?
I am. Devil's advocate.
Since we're here, we can talk about the random dungeon, which is pretty cool.
The beta also we got to do a whole stream just on GM tools for people that are playing any system, honestly, because there's a shocking amount of tools: dungeon traps, obstacles, NPCs, dungeon generation, hundreds of encounters. It's a lot of tools.
So George, saying he loves the random dungeon, he was saying to me that he actually kind of prefers it over a map dungeon. So the idea is that let me go to the rules. That instead of having a map, or if you find yourself like the party going into a dungeon because of a random encounter or something, which is kind of fairly common, you can do this dungeon on the fly by using tables. If I could just find the page.
A lot of tables in the Land of Eem.
Here it is.
Dungeon crawling.
Random dungeons. So it uses a meta currency called keys. And you can either think of these keys as literal keys to open doors in a dungeon, or just like an abstraction of like finding the right way to go in a dungeon. So each time the party enters a new area of the dungeon, a different player rolls search. And depending on their results, some things happen. So if you roll a 1 to 2 complete failure, you lose a key and encounter a hazard. And the hazards are either a creature, trap or obstacle, or riddle or a puzzle. So if you get a 3 or 5, you just encounter a hazard. If you get a 6 or 8, you gain a key and encounter a hazard. 9 through 11, you gain a key. And 12, you gain 2 keys. And on 9 plus, the player, just for kind of flavor, describes what they see in the dungeon. Like, how do they get from point A to point B?
Mm-hmm.
Just for a little fun.
Yeah.
Esme says, my youngest kid is very excited to be a DM in a couple days for a family game night. Thank you so much for sharing this wonderful, golden, easy to follow guide. Awesome.
Wow, so thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Can't wait to see how your games go. That's fantastic.
That's awesome. And then you can spend the keys. So if you spend 5 keys, you find what it is you came looking for in the dungeon. So let's say you're there to save a princess or something. if you amass 5 keys, you're able to save the princess. You like find the princess. Or
Prince.
right, whoever. But you can also spend it on, you can just spend a key on, if you're in a bind, like finding a helpful NPC, finding a helpful item, or if you want magic items, you can spend them on finding a mythic hoard, which is amazing.
Yeah,
You'll
Mythic
definitely
Hoard.
find some awesome magic items.
So like hordes in Land of Eem are essentially treasure caches, and there's different levels of them that have different levels of coolness, and the Mythic Horde is the best. It's like the supreme, a dragon left it behind and kind of thing.
Yeah. And so that's the gist of it. So the fun lies in these random tables that we've created for creatures, traps, obstacles, riddles, and puzzles.
Did we double check to make sure all the answers to the riddles are in there? Because I was stunned when you were like, "Hey James, what is this?" Sorry, I don't know. I have no idea.
We should probably double check.
We'll double check. We'll double check.
So for traps and obstacles, an example would be
Ashley says, "My kids too. They've been waiting impatiently. Almost there. Thursday. It drops Thursday, and it's free for a limited time, so that everybody can get the rules, the sandbox, the pre-generated characters, all that stuff. It's going to be one big package."
what's a good one?
Look at those choppers. I can't read the words. My eyes.
A series of human-sized cleavers lines the hallways. Any movement sets them off in a series of violent chopping motions. Grooves in the stone clearly show how strong these mechanical choppers are. Beware. Or rat thief. You glimpse a rat skitter away into a hole, dragging away what must be the key to the next chamber door. So, got to get in that rat hole somehow.
Elijah
a moat
asks,
of
sorry, I was
go
going to
ahead.
read it. Elijah asks, "Are you guys doing Comic-Con at home?"
kind of passed us by. I don't know.
I guess the answer is ish.
This is our Comic-Con at home.
This is our Comic-Con at home. We're around. We'll be on the Discord maybe later and hanging out. I guess we should share the link to that too. I forgot to announce.
Yeah.
Starting a Discord, and we're the worst promoters in the world. Just FYI. But
No. Molten moat. A moat of molten lava blocks the way forward, but the lever to lower the partially raised drawbridge must be on the other side of the portcullis. So
it's very formal. It's a classic.
A classic. And then we got some riddles. Riddles over here.
Maybe we shouldn't spoil riddles.
It's fine.
It's fine. Yeah, you're right. I immediately disagreed with myself the moment I said it.
The almighty dragon. The door to the next room is actually a snarling dragon. Let's see if anyone can get this. The door to the next room is actually a snarling dragon head that growls. Don't you know what I am? I am the beginning of eternity. I am the end of time and space. Some of them are like simple riddles that we've emified.
Emified, which is emified is our nomenclature for taking something and making it Muppety. A little bit of Lord of the Rings, a little bit of Mad Max, a little bit of the Muppet movie, and then it's been emified.
George is good at riddles, I guess.
Yeah, you should. George got it right. Read the riddle one more time, then we'll tell everyone the answer. I can't see.
A dragon says, "Don't you know what I am? I'm the beginning of eternity. I'm the end of time and space."
And George says, "What is he, like the letter E?" And he is! The letter E.
I mean, it's possible that he could have read that.
I couldn't read the words, but I don't have eagle eyes. I don't have gnome eyes. The eyes of a gnome. I only have a gnome beard. My shelter in place beard, which is gone crazy.
And the other one is creatures. So 50 creatures. 3 brigands are playing a high-stakes game of Huzzah with a dozen more rascals as an audience. They need one of the seats to be filled because the last player was a cheat and got what was coming to him. Play or be on their bad side.
That's good. So yeah, random dungeons.
Indeed.
So,
What else? What else we got here?
gosh, we're running short on time. It's almost noon. We should probably. What did we miss out on? What have we haven't reached?
Oh, conflicts. We should go over that.
Yes, we should. Conflicts are a big deal.
So, conflict, instead of just going straight to combat, George asks, are we going to add a rule set for Huzzah?
We are.
I think the
We
answer
will
is yes.
definitely and for Rascal Rummy. Two card games that exist in the Land of Eem.
Although Huzzah is basically like Magic: The Gathering.
Rascal Rummy.
So that might be a little difficult.
Yeah, to be fair, I do have a rule set, a really basic rule set concept for Rascal Rummy, and I just need to test it with Benjamin.
I think it would probably be best to just abstract it as a dice game.
Oh no, it comes with the deck of Rascal Rummy. We expect it.
So
these are high stakes. Okay, high stakes.
In the Star Wars game that I made that no one will ever play except us, the scoundrel has like a gambling ability, which is sort of like blackjack, rolling 2d10s. So maybe we just lift that.
Yeah.
Easy, done.
Ship it. Cannon.
So let's say all card games should be resolved as Yahtzee.
You know what? I have a change of heart. I agree with that. That is, it should all be Yahtzee.
There's 2 games, so you know.
3. There's Rascal Yahtzee. Pirate Yahtzee. It'll be Huzzah, Rascal Rummy, and Pirate Yahtzee. Eemified.
Pirate Yahtzee to the death. All right, so let's say our friend Riley Springle. It's our friend Riley Springle, and she comes across a pack of hungry wargs. If she's just by herself, that's going to be a big task to fight them. So maybe she wants to parlay. So they come at her. They're obviously hungry and want to eat her. A conflict has started. The first phase of the conflict is parlay. So anyone who wants to try to negotiate, persuade the adversary to do something to get out of this situation, they're able to go first. Now, each adversary has a parlay score of 0, 1, or 2, depending on what they are. So wargs, I think they have 1. You can't just repeatedly try to parlay with them. Some things like a lich would have 0. Like you can't parlay with a lich.
In Land of Eem, it's meant to be you can essentially talk to anybody, but there are limits. There are fiends and things that have no intention of being talked out of their objective.
something like a witch is immensely powerful, but has 2 parlay. So they're always willing to make deals for your soul.
As they do.
So let's say, Riley's with the whole party. She tries to parlay and does not succeed. The rest of the group, the next phase would be the action phase, and this is like a non-combat action. So let's say the dungeoneer wants to set a trap for the wargs, which they can do with their abilities.
But it doesn't even need to be ability related. It could be like, oh, I jump into the river, or I swing on the chandelier. It's like any of the actions that you want to take that aren't necessarily I strike it with a sword.
Right, I climb up into a tree or whatever.
Yeah.
Or knock the tree over, whatever. So anyone who wants to do that goes in that phase. And then phase 3 is run. If you want to run, you're like, got to peace out. We're going to die. That's phase 3. The last phase is combat. So this repeats itself every round of a conflict. Always the person who wants to talk goes first. The people who want to do non-combat actions get a chance to go before the combat. The combat phase does have its own initiative, but it's only rolled by the players. So they roll a perception check. If they get a 6+, they go before the monsters, adversaries. If they get less than that, they go after the adversaries. And yeah, combat is fairly straightforward. It's basically like rolling anything else, except it has different language. So 1 to 2 is a complete miss, which means like you might fumble your weapon or like accidentally destroy something. Like say you're in a spider lair and you're fighting a giant spider. Maybe you accidentally hit one of its spider eggs and a little baby spider bursts out and attacks you. Something like that. And then miss with a plus is N+. Is you miss, but maybe you put your ally into better position. They get a +1 to their attack, or you kind of corner the enemy or something of those natures. And we have examples for each type of thing. Then what I find most interesting is 6 through 8, which is hit with a counterattack. And so you can kind of develop these duels. So let's say you roll a 6 through 8, you deal damage to the enemy, but they can also attack you. And if they get a 6 through 8, then you can attack them back. And so we've had these cool little duels.
Yeah, right.
And it makes combat like quicker and a little deadlier, which I like.
Mm-hmm. Because, with a lot of other systems, and I'm not knocking them or anything, but combat can be a little arduous, where it's just like a battle of attrition and hacking and spell damage. And in this, like even phase 3 running is a great example of an alternative that's like totally fine. You run into a dragon, you can't beat the dragon. Hit points are literally courage. So it's like, I don't think I've got the gumption to do this. We got to get away. Riley Springle surrounded by wargs, So it's the lethality, the danger. It really makes it, I think, a lot more interesting and gets you through that slog of fighting.
And so, and then a 12 critical hit, so you deal double damage. And then, as James was saying, courage is like your bravery, will, and toughness. So you're taking dread. If you get to 0, you're kind of knocked unconscious for a bit, another player can wake you up. When you come to, you regain a d6 plus your level in courage, which is good, but also if you get to 0 in the same adventure, so if you do that, if you're defeated twice, you have a chance of dying. To die, you would have to roll a 5 or less on a vitality check. So it's not like
and that's essentially after being defeated twice.
yes, and you can also take a wound after being defeated, so you get a -1 penalty to rolls. But there are things like armor and shields that help against this stuff. So, like armor allows you to roll advantage on these defy death rolls. So there's ways out of just
the glory
dying.
of chainmail. You know what I mean?
Also, when you do die, you can perform a last heroic action.
This
So that
is one
could
of
be
my
a cool moment.
this is one of my favorite things because I've never really had a problem with my character dying, but you want to make it feel like your character like had meaning, like in that last moment, not just like, oh, you were turned into a skid mark by a dragon. It's just like, bam, and it's done. It's like, no, like that last heroic action, so you can go out with a story to tell. I think is really fun.
Yeah, that would have been nice in high school when my character was unceremoniously beheaded.
Folks, I should have warned you that I knew that this would come up the moment I spoke. Yes, Ben's character
in the last battle.
In the last battle of a multi-year campaign, Ben's gnome illusionist, Thelonious Monk, which always delights me. He was
like,
beheaded.
wouldn't it be cooler if I could say, yeah, I was beheaded, but like right before that happened, I like made him have a dream that killed him.
Unfortunately, I was left with the glory because I had the next turn and I beheaded the guy that beheaded me. That was the throw the ring into the volcano moment of our campaign too. So Ben's been sore about it for a decade.
You mean like
2 decades?
2 decades. We're old, dude.
Yeah, I always forget. Because I think about gnomes all day.
That'll keep you young.
It'll keep you young. I tell you that. I tell you that.
I think that's a good run through. Right?
Yeah. So before we wrap it up, just to share some information with you guys, we're releasing this beta game, including the Used to Be Forest sandbox, which is one small aspect of a larger sandbox that we'll be releasing in the future. The game is going to have a ton of random encounters and creatures, and it's going to come with a first adventure and pre-generated characters, so people can go ahead and dive in and let us know what you think.
Also, everyone should join our Discord.
Yeah, join our Discord. We just created it.
Empty and barren right now, so we need your love.
There's the link.
We want to, make some sort of community around this game. It'd be awesome. If you end up playing this, we'd love for you to come in there and tell us about it or ask questions about it. Maybe you have questions because we want to make this game better.
Yeah, that's what a beta is for. So, join our Discord, follow us on social, and let us know what you think and what's going on. If you have a podcast or a live stream, let us know. We'll make sure we send you some stuff. And yeah. That's
cool.
about it, huh? That's about it. Happy weekend,
All right. Thanks, everybody, for coming.
Yeah, thank you so much. Always appreciate it.
Look out for the game on Thursday. What is the date of that?
The date of Thursday?
It is the 30th. July 30th.
Land of Eem beta drop. It's going to be sweet.
All right. See you later.
All right, take it easy, guys. Have a great weekend.